Look, I'll just say it straight up. We should not have won this football match. No way in hell. We do not deserve to win that football match. But thankfully, a handful of Manchester United players, and it's a handful of Manchester United players, have come together in the last 10 minutes of that match and have won us that football match. And look, the three players, or three and a half, shall we say, standout players for me in that match from a Manchester United perspective. Firstly, Onana, who is the only reason we have not lost that match prior to coming back and getting the win. Joshua Zirkzee, who had an absolutely unbelievable performance, which I hope doesn't get lost because AMAD Diallo, yet again, is the star man. He is the hero, and he is why we have won this football match, with a very lovely assist from Christian Eriksen as the half of the 3.5. But look, I was ready to come in here. Not mad, because I wasn't mad. I wasn't mad throughout the entirety of that match. I was just concerned. Because I sat here after the Arsenal game and I said, we've done the hard work. We've got the result at Liverpool. We've got the result at Arsenal. But those sides were going to go at us. Those sides were going to pummel us. And they did. And the concern was going to be, what are we going to do against Southampton, against Brighton, against Rangers, when they sit back and give us the time to create something for ourselves? And we couldn't do it. We flat out couldn't do it. But one of the other things I said at the end of that Arsenal wrap-up is I said I would play Zirkzee instead of Højlund. And that's where I do want to start, because I do want to talk about Joshua Zirkzee today, because that was the only decision in Ruben Amorim's starting lineup that I would have made differently. I wouldn't have played Harry Maguire today. I sung Harry Maguire's praises at the end of the Liverpool game, at the end of the Arsenal game. I wouldn't have played Harry Maguire today. There's no point. Southampton are going to sit deep. We're going to be playing a high line. There is no point having Harry Maguire in that back line. I'd have played Lenny Yoro, De Ligt and Martinez. I'd have played AMAD and Mazraoui. I'd have played Ugarte and Mainu. I'd have played Bruno. I'd have played Garnacho. But I would have played Zirkzee. And I think that was the real big issue going forward in that first half, which is sad to say because I absolutely love Rasmus Højlund. I really do. But even in the Liverpool game, even in the Arsenal game, what's he offering us? He is a good outlet running in behind, but his hold-up play is absolutely non-existent. He works hard, and that's why I love him. I will love a striker that works hard. I've sat through Lukaku and Ibrahimovic and Ronaldo, who are all quality strikers in their own right, but they don't work hard. Rasmus works hard. He puts himself about. But when he receives the ball with his back to goal, either he loses the physical battle to his centre-back in the first place, or he can't feed the other players around him. The moment Zirkzee came on, that changed. He absolutely changed the game. Him getting on the ball brought Bruno Fernandes into the game, brought Garnacho into the game, brought Anthony into the game, and brought AMAD into the game. And it is where our first goal comes from. But obviously we'll get to that later because we need to focus on the first half first. And it just wasn't working. Like I say, it went into Højlund, we lost the ball. It went into Garnacho, he lost the ball. Bruno didn't really seem to know where to be. He had so many defensive responsibilities against Liverpool and against Arsenal. It's almost like defensively he didn't know where he was supposed to be. He didn't know who he was supposed to be picking up. And then when we got the ball back, because he couldn't hit the Hollywood ball in behind to Mainu, well, I did a couple of times to Mainu, but he couldn't play the ball in behind to Garnacho. He couldn't play the ball behind to Højlund. Couldn't play the ball in behind to AMAD because of how deep Southampton were sitting when we had the ball. He was ineffective. When Ugarte and Mainu had it in midfield, all they could really do was either side foot pass it to each other, play it back into defence, or they would play it to Bruno when he comes short, they'd play it to Højlund when he comes short, they'd play it to Garnacho when he came short, and all those three players would do is just pass it back to Mainu and Ugarte. There was no creativity, there was no spark, there was nothing working for us. We weren't committing players, we weren't going past players, we couldn't create anything of note. And then when we lost it, we were just all over the place. I mean, I feel sorry for Lenny Yoro tonight because he got absolutely rinsed. He got hung out to dry by Sulemana. It was an incredible performance from the Southampton left wing. He absolutely blew him away. And look, obviously AMAD, you could argue, could do more to help him, but I don't know when. Sulemana was quicker than AMAD. He was flying. He was absolutely flying. And poor old Lenny Yoro just... it was a rough night for him. There's not a lot I can say on that. It was a rough night for him. But even then, the midfield, they were just getting bypassed. And I think this is what I mean about Bruno not helping. At times, it was almost 4v2 in there for Mainoo and Ugarte. And they were just getting swarmed. And Ojakutru and Aribo, they're massive units. And they were just powering through Mainoo and Ugarte. And it was exposing our backline. And then players were out of position. And if it wasn't for an incredible performance from Onana, we'd have been 2 or 3-0 down at least at half-time. He made some of the best saves I've seen in a Manchester United shirt for years in that first half, especially that double save, where it's something he always gets criticised for about how easily he gets beaten. I've said it to my mates. If you play FIFA, you play EAFC, he does, in real life, goalkeeper movement. He makes a move before a player plays a shot. It's why you see mistakes like the one against Gibbs-White, because he steps across to the right and the ball goes down the middle, so he's all off-weighted. He doesn't make that double save if he doesn't anticipate the movement on the first save and then anticipate the movement again to make the second save. It's unbelievable goalkeeping. And that's why we go in at half-time only 1-0 down. The corner, I mean, I've spoken enough about corners. It's one of the reasons why I was bigging up Harry Maguire. We had no leadership in the back line today. None whatsoever. Like I said, Yoro was hung out to dry. De Ligt was not organising that defence. Martinez was just charging in like Martinez does. AMAD and Mazraoui, in my opinion, both playing out of position. AMAD's not a wing-back. Mazraoui is not a left wing-back. Again, I don't understand why we don't play them the other way round, because especially against a team like Southampton that's going to sit back, best way to pin them back, play a left footer on the left, a right footer on the right, push them back, start putting balls into the box, and that would also allow the space to be created out wide to allow the likes of Højlund to express themselves in behind. But that'd be my only complaint about Amorim from this game. But, like I say, without Maguire at the back, there is no organisation on the corner once again. They win the first ball, it comes off Ugarte, and somehow Onana still nearly saves it. But unfortunately, it ends up in the back of the net, and it's 1-0 at half-time. Second half, he takes Mainoo off, he puts Anthony on. Not sure I agreed with that decision, but again, in the end, it worked out for us because Bruno dropping into the midfield position, he was a bit more expressive, but it was obvious in those first 8 minutes of the second half that on the balance of things, nothing had really changed. Then came the double change that changed the match for Manchester United. Joshua Zirkzee came on, and who else? Ugarte off as well. And honestly, I can't even remember who he brought on, but it made the difference. It allowed us to be more creative because now we had attacking players in the key positions and they could receive the ball because Zirkzee was holding the ball up. We could hit that long ball like we'd been hitting to Højlund, and Zirkzee would get on it and he would do something with it. He would turn. He would create opportunities for other players. We missed multiple chances after Zirkzee came on the pitch prior to AMAD scoring. Like, okay, we should have been 2 or 3-0 down. Granted, it probably could have been 2 or 3-1 because Garnacho missed an absolute sitter as well. But from the moment Zirkzee came on the pitch, we were so much better going forward. Collier was the other one he put on, who, to be honest, just did the same job Ugarte was doing. It didn't really affect the game, but Ugarte had a poor game. So I respect him for taking him off. And Collier came on, he did his job well as well. But it was that introduction of Zirkzee that made the difference. He caused the problems for Southampton. He committed Harwood Bellis and Bednarek in a way that Højlund wasn't doing. And it was obvious that we were going to start creating chances if we kept giving the ball to Zirkzee. We did that. We started creating chances. The attacking players started to get more into the game. Southampton were getting more and more and more stretched. The more stretched that they got, the further forward AMAD was getting up, the further forward Mazraoui was getting up. And I like that even though we did score, he still made the same changes he was going to make, which was to then take Mazraoui off and put Garnacho further back and bring on even more attacking players because we needed more. And that's what we did. We just kept pushing and pushing. AMAD gets himself the first goal. We keep going again. It's AMAD again. It's a phenomenal ball from Christian Eriksen. I just outstanding. I questioned it when he brought him on. I was like, I would put Eriksen in the attacking position, leave Bruno as the deeper one. But if it was Bruno in that deeper position, would he have pulled off that pass with the level of execution that Christian Eriksen did? I'm not saying Bruno can't pull that pass off, but if I want someone in the Manchester United squad to play that pass, I want it to be Christian Eriksen. It's a phenomenal pass. It's a phenomenal finish. And then we keep going. I think he even swapped AMAD and Anthony in those last 10 minutes. Let AMAD really go at that back line and Anthony drop back, because when AMAD gets his hat-trick goal, it's him that's putting the pressure on the centre-back when they then lose it, and then it's just an open goal and it's a tap-in, and it's a thoroughly deserved hat-trick. And Amorim deserves the credit for this win. He absolutely does. And again, I hope that doesn't get lost under the radar as well. He made big decisions in this match. He took Mainu off at half-time. He took Ugarte off. He took Højlund off. He took Euro off because he was getting smoked, and he put Harry Maguire on with 10 minutes to go. And again, we had more control at the back once Harry Maguire came on. And obviously, again, Christian Eriksen got the assist. Collier got himself about well. Every change that Ruben Amorim made in that match made a difference in Manchester United winning that match. And even though probably 6 or 7 out of that starting 11, more, probably 9 of the starting 11 don't deserve any real credit from that match other than AMAD and Onana, those handful of players have pulled us out of it today, and they do deserve some plaudits, because if you look at the stats, we would have absolutely dominated the stats in that match come the end of the match, even though Southampton could have been multiple goals ahead in the first half. So I'm happy that we've got the win, but I am obviously still very concerned that we're playing against a much higher quality of team in Brighton at Old Trafford on Sunday. But again, for me, if I'm looking at what I've seen in that performance, obviously Dallow's got to come back as well. I think what we should do in the game against Brighton is Xerxes has to start. He has to be the one that's committing Lewis Dunk, because if it's Højlund again, I just don't see him doing what we need him to. I think AMAD has to play in the more attacking position. If that means Mainu and Ugarte has to drop out, then one of them's going to have to drop out. I'd probably say Bruno and Ugarte, maybe even Bruno and Collier. Give Mainu and Ugarte a rest, play them against Rangers, have them as options on the bench. But I would say we need to utilise Xerxes more. Have Xerxes up top, AMAD and Garnacho. If it has to be Dallow and Mazraoui as the wing-backs, whichever way around that is, I'd prefer Dallow on the left, Mazraoui on the right. Because it just didn't look right for me today. And then the back line, again, I'd be tempted to still play Euro again. I'm not necessarily sure we need Maguire at home to Brighton, but they're going to be a little bit more front-footed. And again, we seriously lack that defensive organisation without him today. It's just that always the worry that if we're going to have to play a high line, because Brighton sit off, it may be a bit of an issue with Maguire. But there's definitely some questions that need to be asked of Amorim in terms of the team selection for the next game. But fingers crossed we can take those last 10 minutes into the game against Brighton. But genuinely, I would be seriously concerned that we could be on the end of another really embarrassing display at Old Trafford on Sunday. But as always, let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. I didn't mention the Anthony miss. He missed an open goal. I just think he overthought it, as so many of our other players did in their build-up play throughout the course of that match. It's unfortunate for him because, he needed that more than anyone. But he was getting in that position, and in the first half, we weren't getting people in that position. So, at least in that regard, he was impacting the Southampton defence. So, yeah, that's the Anthony miss. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you very soon.